today's mobility session. We're going to do some work around tight hips. So if you are sitting all day, so you'll be sitting probably with your hips bent at 90 degrees, and here in these hip flexor areas going to get really, really tight. I want to give you a nice wee routine that you can do to help free that up, to make you a bit more comfortable. When we get tight in here, it impacts our back, it impacts our posture, impacts overall movement, can also trap emotions, and emotions can be trapped and that can cause tight hip flexors as well. So as we do this, some people get an emotional release. So breathe through it, listen to your body. Anything that feels uncomfortable or painful, don't do. If you have a hip replacement, there are a couple of moves that will slightly adapt, but I will tell you what they are as we get to them. So bring yourself into a comfortable seated position. We're going to sit with our legs out long in front of us. Now, if you're really tight in your hamstrings, so at the back of the thighs, what I want you to do is to get a block, if you've got a yoga block, or a couple of pillows to lift your hips up. If you are sitting with your legs out long, but your back's really arched, then lifting the hips up higher will allow that tall posture. Alternatively, you could have your knees slightly bent if that's what you need to be. But we want to check tall through the posture, shoulders back and down. Press out through the soles of the feet, so toes pointed up to the ceiling. We're going to lean back. Now, as you're leaning back, check that the shoulders don't come up around the ears. We want to keep the shoulder joints nice and safe. You're leaning over to the side, point the toes behind you. You might want to roll your calf away and then see if you can come back to an upright position. Now, if you can't, you stay leaning over to the side. And then what you'll do is you'll rock your hip down and back, trying to free this area up. Now, I want you to be aware of your breath. First of all, I don't want you to hold your breath. Then I want you to get smooth and steady breaths all the way in and out. Can you maybe, after you've done that for a few breaths, sit upright? Now, notice where things are feeling tight. If you get any pain or discomfort in your knee, then maybe your toe isn't pointing right behind. Only bring that foot round if it's okay. Now, the size of your thigh muscles, your size of your calf muscles are going to change how these moves are in your body. All of us are unique to limb length, to muscle size. So just work with what you've got without expectation. But what we're looking for is comfort. We're looking for a sense of ease in each position. Let's bring this foot round into the second position. So sole of the foot's coming into the inner thigh, and then we're going to let the knee drop out to the side. Now, some people's knee will land on the floor. Other people, like myself, your knee will be lifted away from the floor. Sometimes that's the shape of your pelvis and how your thigh bone and the head of the thigh bone sits into that pelvic bowl, so up here. Some people, it's tight in at the groin. For some people, it's tight in at the lower back and at the outer hip. So just breathe into it. You might want to very gently place your hand on and pulse down. That'll give you a good indication of whether or not it's structural, so it's how the bones are sitting together, or whether it's muscular, where you're holding tension. So if you start to push down and your whole body tips, then it's likely to be structural. Just breathe through it. Now check in with this long leg, that the toes are still pointing up to the ceiling, that we've not let that go floppy. This is going to help hold your posture. We're going to bring this knee in, and then we're going to sit the foot inside of the knee to start with. Now, if you have got a hip replacement, this is where you're going to stay with your foot. If you're really tight and at the butt and at the lower back, this might be where you stay as well. Or you might want to see how it feels to cross your foot over to the outside of your knee. This will really indicate what's going on in around the femur head, so that thigh bone head, how tight the muscles are in around the outer part of your hip here. Now, if anything starts to cramp, always just back away from it. Check in with your posture. So if you've started to collapse here, can you bring yourself up? And it might be that you need to slide your foot down or bring your foot back over to the inside of your knee. Then we're going to let that knee drop out to the side. So if you get a hip replacement or your foot was on the inside, you can bring your ankle up onto the thigh and let the knee drop out. And this might be where you stay. You might want to bring your foot to the floor and start to edge the foot a bit further over. So if you're tight here, you're going to really feel the stretch in this outer part. Again, we're thinking about posture. Are we nice and tall? If we're starting to slump, can we use our hands to help us? Do we need to back out of this stretch? So smooth and steady with your breath. You might want to have a wee rock from side to side. Motion in these positions is really good, and that's what we're going to do on the next round. So we're going to go all the way back to that first position, toes pointing behind. Roll the calf out the way if it needs. Be leaning over, having this wee rock side to side here if you need. If you're quite comfortable sitting upright, can you start to hinge from the hip? So not folding from the waist, keeping the spine nice and long, hinge from the hip, come over that long leg. I'm just going to show you that from the side. So a fold from the hip, from the waist looks like this. A hinge from the hip looks like this. So there's a difference there. We want keeping the spine long, having that lean forward. Toes are still pointing to the ceiling of that long leg. Now, it might be that you start to slide forward and you go, oh, goodness gracious, that was intense. So then you back away from it on an inhale and then smoothly into it on the exhale. So we can just shift forward and back. Or you might still be over here doing your little rocking from the hip. Do which part works best for you. Then we're going to slide this foot back into that second position. And we're going to, if your knee's up, you're gently pulsing down. If your leg feels quite comfortable, you're maybe having a bit of a stretch. Or you might do a couple of pulses and then having a stretch. And a couple of pulses and having a stretch. So again, you're thinking that hinge from the hip. Spine stays nice and long. We're not collapsing in at the belly. And take those long releasing exhales. Bring that up. Let's bring the foot either to the inside of the knee or the outside, whichever feels better for you. We're going to wrap your opposite arm around that bent leg. Take the other hand behind. Come into a twist. So you're looking over your shoulder. Take a couple of breaths here. And it doesn't matter which way you're going because we're going to go both ways. Bring that round. Bring your arm to the inside of the leg, other hand behind. Take that twist the other way. So we're thinking about this rib cage rotating round. Couple of deep breaths in and out. Bring it back. And then either ankle in the knee with the knee dropped out or foot coming a bit further over. And again, that hinge from the hip, keep the spine nice and long. Oh, goodness. That gives you a kick, particularly if you're tight in this bottom leg. So use the exhale and breath. One more time here. And then we're going to have a lean back. We're going to lengthen that leg out, pad the knees up and down, flop the feet from side to side. Notice how this leg that you've just worked feels. The leg might feel like it's sitting a little bit longer than the other leg. There might be warmth, there might feel spaciousness, whatever. You might not feel anything yet. If you're really, really tight, you might feel tingling. Right, let's go to the other side. So back into that tall posture. The leg that we've been working is going to be the long leg with the toes pointed up. We're leaning over to the other side, pointing the toes behind, rolling that calf, and then seeing what's going on this side. This experience might be completely different. Your hip on this side might be much more free, or it might be much tighter. So again, those options, the rocking of the hip, or we're sitting upright, settling into the breath. Bringing the foot round into that second position, so sole of the foot in, knee dropping out to the side. Your knee might be closer, like mine is. The side might feel much freer, or it might be tighter. So if you're lifted away from the floor, can you do a couple of pulses just to see what's going on? Check in with that long leg, toes still pointing to the ceiling. And then we're going to bring that knee in. So we settle the foot to the inside of the knee to start with. Remembering hip replacements are going to stay on this side. No hip replacement, or hip feeling okay, we can bring the foot over to the other side. Just observe, what do you feel here? How's your posture? Have you started to slump? Can we stay upright? How's the breath? And then Do we want to let the ankle sit on the knee with the knee dropped out, or do we want to walk that foot a bit further over? Again, this may feel completely different for me. My right side, really tight, really quite uncomfortable, but I can still breathe through it. And on this side, it feels much freer. Excuse me, while So let's come all the way back to first position. And here, are you wanting to rock up and down, or do we want to hinge at the hip, keep the ribs tucked in? And notice the movement here. So for me, because this right leg is my tighter leg, when I come to go to that hinge forward, there's less movement. So I'm tightening the hamstring on this side as well. There's work to be done. And there are things we can add into this move to help when we start to identify where we're tight. There are other things that we can do to really help free that up. Let's bring that sole of the foot round to the inside of the thigh. And again, do we want to have that hinge forward from the hip? And when you change the position of this leg, so for me, I've taken that knee out to the side. When I start to come forward into that lean, there's much more movement. But when I've got that internal rotation of the thigh, the movement's more restricted, it's more blocked up. These wee things just good for you to notice. Where is this tight? What position is my body in while I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing? Bringing the knee in, foot either to the inside or the outside of your knee. Opposite hand wraps round, other hand comes behind, coming into that twist, looking over the shoulder. Check your long leg, toes are still pointing up to the ceiling. I just caught mine, trying to relax there. Couple of breaths here. Release it all the way round. Take that twist the other way. Bring it back to the centre, and then we're going for that leg coming over. So remember, ankle just on the knee with the knee dropped out, or foot further over. And again, the size of your muscles here are going to dictate where your legs can move to. So if you've got big, sturdy thighs, your knees are not going to be anywhere near in line with each other. And if you've not got big muscles, then your knees are going to be much closer together. There's no right or wrong here. You're working with your body and what feels right in your body. That hinge from the hip, keep the ribs tucked in, spine nice and long. Can we get a few bits of movement there? Just exploring whatever there is to explore. And then let's lean that back, lengthen the legs out, pad the knees up and down, flip the feet from side to side. And then come back into that very first position we were in, where you're sitting tall with the legs out in front. Has that changed anything in around your hips? Does that feel any different? How does that feel in your body? Do you need a little bit more work? Now, if you need a little bit more work and you need some advice on that, please do reach out to me. IamJenWilson.com is the website. You can pop a comment in wherever you're watching this. Reach out to me, ask your questions, pop your comments in. If hold on.